So we have the 55 Coyote Bird out on the road and been test driving it, and it feels good for the most part, but we wanted to find out what kind of power it was actually put into the ground. So we took it to Ranken Technical College. It's a local vocational college to us, and we strapped it to their dyno. And first pull on it did 345 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and 341 foot-pounds of torque at 4,200 RPM. So when you account for the drivetrain loss, it's probably doing pretty close to the 412 that Ford advertised this motor to put out. Some of the things that we ran into with the 55 Coyote Bird relate to things we had to do to make the Coyote engine fit in the car. We couldn't use the airbox that Ford supplies, and naturally our exhaust is different than what's in the Mustang. So this has caused some weird air fuel problems. We're initially lean and then we go really rich. So it's got a little bit of a drivability problem when you really want to stand on and get the power out of it. So Ranken uses SCT tuners, which is what Ford recommends for fine-tuning Coyote crate motors in different applications. And we brought it here to kind of clean up the air-fuel ratio and make the car a little more user-friendly.
Ranken is located here in St. Louis, and they teach a lot of different technical background for the industry. We have automotive instruction here, high-performance racing. There's also electrical training for electricians, plumbing, architectural, and IT development here at the college. Here in this department we teach students how to properly machine engine blocks and cylinder heads for high-performance racing use. Our shop is equipped with CNC equipment, VGS equipment for cylinder head repairs, and we also have flow benches here, and students learn how to properly port and polish cylinder heads. Most of the time what we do as far as promotion of our program, we have two racing programs that we operate here as an extracurricular activity for the students, and it's used to let the students learn about the racing industry, but it also allows the public to see that we actually have a high-performance racing program here. We have a drag car that we run at the local drag strip here at Gateway International, and we also have a dirt UMP modified that we race at a couple of racetracks here in the St. Louis area. We have a 2000 Pontiac Firebird, and the students work as a team on the car. They've developed the car from a basic street car into a 9-second in the 9-second bracket drag car. They've learned the chassis fabrication processes that it takes to put a cage in a car. They've learned the chassis setups. Of course, they've learned how to rebuild the engine in our class. They've learned how to tune the engine using fast fuel injection system on it. We've had the students actually rebuilt the transmission in the car and put a Turbo Hydro 400 in it, the trans brake complete from in a box to the drag strip. All the parts are added and modified in that manner. Well, most of the time what we do is our students are normally have our dynos clogged up with their stuff. Of course, anybody would like to work on their own equipment, their own cars, their own race engines, because it really gets their heart and their soul into it. And we really do encourage that as instructors. All right, well, the Coyote Bird's here today at Ranken Technical College to be checked out for see how much horsepower and torque it'll create on our Mustang chassis dyno. And so far it's had really good numbers. We have some air-fuel ratio curve issues that we want to address and take a look at. But the car looks to be in pretty good shape. It's generating some really good numbers on the dyno.
But in the real world, driving the car on the road, it had a weird problem with the cam phasing. It hit 4,000 RPM and then it just kicked you and went. And we wanted to try and clean up the cam timing, which is independently variable on the Coyote motor. The problem was, since we didn't use Ford's stock airbox, there was some problems with the signal, and it wasn't really sure when it should adjust the intake cam timing.
We'll be using SCT to program the Coyote Bird, and the system will take it through. We'll do a couple data files, a data log through LiveLink, and get all the data we need to start making adjustments. Basically, it will record all the engine management data, and we'll be able to make accurate adjustments pretty quickly against the AFR, what the downstream O2s are the reading, and correct the mass airflow so that it creates a good, smooth fuel curve. The air fuel curve on the Coyote Bird was kind of erratic. It was trending pretty lean early in the run, and as the run progressed, it advanced towards overly rich. It was erratic. What I mean by that, it was just bouncing pretty quickly back and forth. It was trending towards the rich side, which is what you would want it to do, but it was overly rich by the end of the pull, which is costing it a little bit of power. The AFRs, it started out, it was at 14.7 as idle, and as the throttle was applied, it trended towards 15.2 to 15.5, which is not so lean that I would really flip out and call the pull off. But as it progressed, after that it went from 15.5 and went down into what we would consider a power enrichment mode. You could see it approach power enrichment. It dropped below 14, and then it headed all the way down into 11.9. Is what I saw a couple times as it was pulling out around 6,000 RPM, which is about a half a point or a full point too rich.
Well, what we found was that the car was backfiring pretty bad on deceleration, and what we found was that the flange at the end of the exhaust manifold had a leak, and it was allowing air into the downstream air going to the exhaust pipe. And on deceleration, there's a deceleration fuel cutoff mode, and whenever that would end and the fuel would enter the exhaust pipe, it had sufficient enough air coming in that it would cause it to backfire. So it was a defective exhaust flange gasket.
We never would have found that exhaust leak had we not had it on the dyno, because we couldn't hear it, could barely hear it in the room with it echoing off the walls. And it was kind of surprising how much of a profound effect such a small exhaust leak had on our backfiring problem. The guys at Ranken were able to write us a custom tune to account for the variables that we'd installed into the 55 Coyote-Bird and clean up the cam timing.
We expected to see a lot more issues because of the intake track having to be remade and refabricated, but it was built and fabricated in a way that was excellent because it mimicked the airflow path that was in the factory airbox and air intake path. So because of that, the math transfer function didn't skew out and alarming amount at all. As a matter of fact, the car runs and performs perfectly.
Being able to adjust the cam timing is not something you can do in a traditional way with a keyway or an offset gear in an older motor. Now that we've got the motor dialed in and we know the air-fuel curve is safe, this car's ready to go anywhere.